Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and it's again January 2019 Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. It's 9:30 in the morning, and we are early up here for our first interview partner, Scott Melby, the Executive Vice President of Uranium Energy Corporation, UEC. Scott, good morning.
Good morning, Johan. It's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again, and Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you, and you
because
as well.
The year started, and hopefully it's a good year for uranium. Maybe before we come to your lovely company, let's touch on some macro stuff.
Sure.
Uranium had a good run last year, so
yes.
What is your thought on everything?
Yeah, no, 2019 is going to be very exciting. I think we've seen now basically a fundamental rebalancing of the uranium market over the last 2 years, and by that I mean that uranium production globally peaked in 2016 and has dropped now to a level of about 135 million pounds produced in 2018. To put that into context, global demand for uranium in 2019 will be about 196 million pounds. So we're finally seeing this drawdown of excess and secondary supplies in a very significant way.
Stupid question. That's 61 million pounds of supply gap. From where does that come? Still from Japan, or from where does it come?
Well, we know over the 7-year bear market that we had after Fukushima, there was significant overproduction that was encouraged by previous cycles and higher prices in the past and legacy contracts that producers had signed. So we were producing more uranium in this period than was needed. So now it's very much a process of drawing those down. But at this rate, the rebalancing is happening in a much more accelerated fashion.
What is your, let's call it private guess or professional guess, however you want to name that, how much inventories we still have? Meaning, how long could this, let's say, supply gap sustain?
Yeah, it's the most opaque factor in the uranium market. It's easy to determine how much is being produced, how much is being consumed, the secondary supplies, and while some analysts will throw out very large numbers, I think when you unpeel the onion and you start taking out strategic inventories that the Chinese government has bought in anticipation of continued growth in their nuclear program, inventories in Japan, for example, they've grown bigger because the plants have been slow to restart, but they're not selling those inventories. So once you strip out those levels of inventories, we're really looking at a period where you get a couple years, 2 or 3 years at this type of a drawdown of 60 million pounds or more. You're very much into a period not too far into the future where new production is needed, and as we know, because of the underinvestment and the very poor price signals, that pipeline just really hasn't been prepared. So we're kind of into the crunch now of the need for new production, and some projects that require billion-dollar investments and 8 to 10-year licensing and permitting, we're well within that period. So this is where it gets very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, I would say, I mean, this is now like I would call it static number we have. But on the other hand, we see the Chinese factor, I would call it. And I mean that the Chinese nuclear growth is on a path like every 2 to 3 months, up to 2030. We see a new nuclear power plant going online.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how is that already figured into, or is this like a demand which is now really ramping up and might hit the market hard? Because we know when you start a nuclear power plant, you need approximately 5 million pounds just for the start. Right?
So, unlike the previous bull market that we saw in 2007 where prices went all the way to $137 a pound, we were talking about future growth and future demand because of plants that were then being planned and on the drawing boards. We're now, as you've said, seeing plants actually connected to the grid. Every 3 months, we're seeing units start up and start generating electricity. So the demand on the uranium industry is immediate, and the Chinese, they have been buying in the spot market and not just in the spot market, but from spot and long-term deliveries, about 50 million pounds a year imported into China. That sounds like a lot of material, but at the rate of growth, China will surpass the U.S. in installed capacity within 10 years. So, it's an immediate story. It's not we've always said, the uranium market recovery was inevitable, but now I think it's more imminent. And listen, a big part of it is the discipline shown by producers. As long as they were producing more than the market needed year after year, things weren't going to turn around. But now the discipline being shown by Cameco and Kazatomprom and other producers around the world is really one of the major causes of this rebalancing.
Interesting. Have you maybe done some, I would call it homework, on, let's say, e-mobility in the next 5 years? Because we see a large ramp up also in Europe. Norway, for example, goes crazy about, I think, 43% of all cars are already e-vehicles or hybrids. So my point to be made is we need to fuel them with power, not with gas.
And this is really the other kind of exciting overarching development, and it's really quite recent, and it's the changing narrative around nuclear, and it's coming from an interesting place. It's the climate change community. We just had Poland COP24, where the climate change community basically is becoming panicked because they've been trying to reduce carbon emissions for the past 24 years, and the results are going the other way.
Germany goes up because of that madness about the diesel stuff.
You replace clean, replacing clean nuclear energy with renewables is a net wash.
Makes no sense.
And in fact, shutting down nuclear and adding more gas, gas is half the carbon emissions of coal. But it's still, you put enough gas plants in, carbon emissions go up. And this is the reality that the climate change community is coming to grips with. And we're now seeing people that were adamant opponents of the nuclear industry now supporting us and saying, hey, if we really want to make a meaningful impact, we have to embrace nuclear power, not in a little way, but in a big way. And that is helping politicians in the United States, in Taiwan, in Korea, elsewhere, where they thought it was publicly popular to oppose nuclear. It's now the opposite, that, oh, wait a minute, the public, and especially the very powerful climate change community, wants nuclear power, and that gives the mandate for politicians to support nuclear, like we've seen in the U.S. Recently.
Funny enough, we have in Germany already a movement called pro-nuclear. Can you believe that?
Yes, you had a rally recently in Berlin, I believe, where...
And I think, Berlin, and I think even in Munich it was.
Munich it was, yes, where everyone came out, which is, it's great to see the love for nuclear, even in Germany, but it's really a global phenomenon right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's come shortly to a lovely company. You guys brought out a beautiful new resource estimate for Reeno Creek. Maybe you want to comment on that.
Yeah, so 2019 is going to be a very good year for UEC as well. And for us, during the downturn, it was really about conserving our resources in the ground, conserving our cash, but permitting, licensing, doing drilling, and also acquiring in the down cycle. But I think we're now beginning to see the shift, certainly in our budgeting and planning, where we're moving forward on a number of fronts. Reeno Creek in Wyoming was the announcement last week, which is very exciting. The consolidated 43-101 for that deposit gives us the largest permitted ISR project in the United States, which is also not lost on anyone with the Trump administration support of the uranium industry through the 232 investigation, very well situated in Wyoming. With Burke Hollow, we're awaiting the final permit on that project, but we've already planned for the 2019 budget to initiate development of the initial production well field. The permitting requirement is the monitor well ring is a precursor to production, and also the drilling of the initial production well field. Now that's not production coming this year, but it's stuff that we're going to need to do.
Yeah, to pull the plug.
It's a critical path for going into production. So we just want to be ready when prices turn. And for us, that means $45 a pound is a very comfortable place for us, which is much lower threshold than most production around the world that needs to be brought on in a much higher capital investment. So we're very excited about that. At Reeno Creek, we'll be doing a feasibility study on the timeline to development, capital cost there. Burke Hollow, as I mentioned, moving forward with first stage development. And also down in Paraguay with our titanium project, also looking at updating the feasibility
Maybe
study.
Maybe you want to divest that in the future to shareholders?
Yes, I mean, what we have there, by virtue of being present in Paraguay as a uranium developer, is the ability to acquire the largest undeveloped titanium deposit in the world. And with titanium prices very strong on fundamentals in China and elsewhere, we see this as a real opportunity not to shift our focus away from uranium. That's our wheelhouse, and it always will be. But the ability to monetize that deposit and be able to fund all our capital needs, essentially for our uranium activities, is very exciting. But we want to do it right. We want to really update the feasibility study to the current conditions and see what exactly do we have there in terms of an asset.
Fantastic, great. So it looks like a very busy 2019.
Yes.
And last question. The treasury is quite nicely filled up, right?
Yes, so we concluded a financing recently that brought our cash balances over $20 million. Again, a good portion of that raise that we just concluded is going towards very accretive pre-development and production readiness type activities. So we just can't emphasize enough that that's being put to a very productive use in 2019.
Fantastic. We want to see more, and the next update at PDAC.
Excellent.
Super, that's how we do. Thank you, Scott.
Bye.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there was Scott Mhairi, the Executive Vice President of UEC, and you heard it. Busy year in front of them. Things are really going well. Nice resource estimate for Reeno Creek. The treasury is beautifully filled up, so for the next, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years, they are fine. And for me, also interesting, $45 uranium. And the guys really switched the engines on. That's what we want to see, the company back in production for sure. And yeah, check it out. Thanks for watching us. Bye-bye from Vancouver.
Thank you.